this is going to be very interesting on multiple fronts.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, the beloved IP for both Josh and I, and many people, because Lord of the Rings is just perfection. I didn't know that the rights were up for sale, but apparently the rights for Lord of the Rings were up for sale, and someone has bought them. Embracer Group has acquired
Just
the
weird.
everything rights for Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, to which, if you're anything like Josh and I, who the heck's Embracer Group, and where did they get all this money? Oh, are they Walter White back from the dead? I don't know who this Embracer Group is, but they've acquired the film, television, merchandise, theme park, all of those rights for Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. And my brain immediately goes to Amazon going, you know about this? Where does this leave you? Because, you just spent a lot of money, and if you can't do anything with it, that could be very interesting. But I wouldn't be surprised if that was like a pre-existing contract before this went through. Be
Yeah.
like, yeah, you can have the show, but anything besides the show has to go through us. What this means could be a lot of different things. Wow. Can we bring back the golden age of Lord of the Rings video games, please? Because, yeah, we've got, like,
Dude.
Shadow of Mordor and whatnot. Those are great games. But back in the day, when you had, like, the movie tie-in video games, which swung way above its weight class and should not have been as good as they were, we all had memories of either having the game or, more specifically like me, going over to a friend's house to play the video games because those Lord of the Rings games were amazing. But getting more games, potentially more TV series besides the Amazon one. So Amazon won't have exclusivity on that, which I think could be super interesting. I would like more Lord of the Rings content, whether it's movies or TV, with the caveat, very similar to Star Wars, of we put it way separate from what we already know about the world.
Mhm.
Like, put it in a much different time frame. I know Rings of Power is a prequel, like set uh probably thousands of years, I believe. Like when the rise of Sauron the first time. Interesting concept. Again, like House of the Dragon, I'll probably watch the first 2 or 3 episodes to properly gauge if I like it or not. Set a sequel series, The Last Days of Aragorn, and what happens after the good king dies. Like what happens there. Don't make it full Game of Thrones, but I would be very curious to see what the lineage of um that would look like. What does the world look like in the future as opposed to the past? I think the world of Lord of the Rings is so vast and interesting that you could tell a lot of different stories. There's another important angle to this, but I'll come back to that after we hear from Josh. Josh, Lord of the Rings is one of your most beloved franchises this side
Yep.
of Redwall. Uh, what does this mean? And Embracer Group. Okay, sure.
So, okay, what's crazy is, so to me, yeah, it's a little weird that Amazon has this show coming out and then the rights are sold right before
Sold to
before
not
the
them.
yeah, till sold to not them. But the thing to keep in mind too is that it is a prequel, and technically they're going to be pulling more from the Silmarillion.
Cimmerillion?
Silmarillion, sure. The other books of from Tolkien in the Middle Earth kind of world, which is totally okay. So I looked up Embracer Group because I was curious. What give us something to talk about.
Yeah.
Um, Fun fact: they're a gaming company. Just a small one. The kind that owns THQ, Gearbox. The
Oh,
company that
you
did
know.
like Borderlands and like Tomb Raider, the Evil Dead games, Deus Ex Machina, like so many of some of the biggest games of the last 10 years. So there's that. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a move to get the Lord of the Rings games going again, which is I have no issue with whatsoever. Let's go, baby. But also a roundabout way to get Lord of the Rings into under the PlayStation Studios banner in some way, shape, or fashion. Because I mean, bro, like how you want your studio to do well, right? So PlayStation Studios is quote unquote new. It's so
PlayStation Productions or PlayStation
yeah,
Studio?
yeah,
Oh yeah,
whatever,
PlayStation.
whatever.
It is PlayStation Studios, I think.
So you want that to do well, and you're already making a Borderlands movie. Why not just have them get more rights and then just make Lord of the Rings content under your banner? Like that's a fantastic way to bolster your new studio. I'm
Especially
not
with
saying that that's the
Microsoft
play, but
acquiring a
yeah,
lot of IPs as well.
yes, absolutely. So I mean, it makes sense, man. I don't know. It does. It's very confusing. I think for Amazon to be coming out with with the series like what in 4 or 5 days. Yeah,
Yeah,
about
next
less than a
week.
week at this point. Um, and then the rights being sold, so that's super weird. But I think it's just interesting that it's by a Swedish like video game and media holding company that it just happens to be responsible for a lot of the top games in the past 10 years. So it's like, all right, interesting, cool.
And then I come at it from a different perspective of there's been rumors. We'll just call it that. There's nothing more to it than that. There's just
It's
rumors
a
and
rumor
speculators.
weed.
There's been rumors for at least a decade of theme park stuff for Lord of the Rings. And
Let's
I
go.
never believed it. One, because it never seemed like an actual viable option. But two, I never really knew where it would go because Lord of the Rings would need a lot of space, and I didn't really know who would be able to do the expansion. Well, the love of my life that is Universal Orlando is building a third park. Lord of the Rings is not scheduled to be at that park.
Mm-hmm.
However, the past few months there have been increasing amount of rumors that upon an expansion, which all theme parks open to a certain amount and then they'll always like expand out as need be over the coming years, like different phases. That the expansion would see a Lord of the Rings section added onto the park. Now, whether this changes with this new ownership group, I do think it's interesting that theme park rights were definitely acknowledged in a lot of the articles that were mentioned because my knowledge, Lord of the Rings has not had a theme park presence yet, but that's always been like the white whale, so to speak, of who's eventually gonna get Lord of the Rings in a theme park because there's so much money to be had there. Because, oh my gosh, if you imagine if Universal already has Harry Potter, if you can go to both Three Broomsticks and the Green Dragon in the same day,
Dang.
oh my gosh. You can buy your wand at one place and also what merchandise would you want to buy? Not a ring. That would be a bad idea to sell rings at this Lord of the Rings place. The merchandising, where the real money from the theme park comes from.
But see, like that's the other thing. I think you absolutely do rings. Are you kidding me? You do, but not just the one ring. You do all of them. You do like almost like a
But there's
ring
not that
shop.
many. Everyone has a wand in Harry Potter. Not everyone has a ring.
I mean, there's a pretty decent amount
There's
actually.
like what, 11?
No, there's way more. Because there's the 9 that they gave that were given to the humans. There's it's
5
like
that were given to the race
5
of
to the
men
elves.
who, above all else, sought power.
And then there's
4
like
for the
so
dwarf
9,
lords.
5, and then I think four went to the
dwarf
dwarves.
lords.
So that's, I mean, it's
But
still a
that's
decent
not like
amount.
a wand in every hand.
I mean, I understand. I hear you. But that's why you do like swords and like costumes and like.
There's a weapon shop just called And My Axe.
Bruh, tell me if I can get a actual like to scale model of Gimli's double-headed axe. Are you kidding me? Or a scale or like an actual wood version. A wood version of Gandalf's staff, the gray, not the his white one's fine, but like the gray.
Or again, a glowing sting sword. Like,
oh, dude,
there's just that like actually interacts like the wands in Wizarding World. Like it actually lights up.
Oh, I'm just imagining like now that I've been to Universal and now that I've seen at least half of Harry Potter World and I've gone to Diagon Alley, I'm just imagining how cool that theme park would be just to be in and an experience, like, and to experience. Um, to me, it's not like you almost have to do Smaug and have to do a fire breathing dragon there as well. Like,
Make that a ride. Escape from the mountain.
Escape from Smaug.
Escape from Misty Mountain.
Oh, dude, there's just so much you could do, I think, and the world is way more vast than Harry Potter, and there's so much more you could do, merchandise and theme park wise. That, like, imagine getting to go and hang out at Helm's Deep, or like Minas Tirith or something like that. God, there's so much cool stuff to do, I think. But yeah, it's an interesting move, but I think harkens to a really cool future. I would hope anyway.
Absolutely. Good use of Harkin.
Hey, thanks.